Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I wanted to do a quick review of Miller's Lab. Miller's Lab is a printing service that I use. I primarily use them for our high volume sports photography prints, but I also use them for different customers whenever I do portrait sessions and senior pictures, things like that. I've ordered a lot of poster size prints from them. And overall, I am pretty happy with them. When I first got started into high volume photography and I looked around on the internet, I really couldn't find much information about printing services or even setups of how to do high volume photography, all kinds of stuff like that. I really struggled to find information. And so I just kind of thought I would do a review for you guys of Miller's Lab, the one that I use. And if you guys are interested in more information about how I set up my high volume shoots, leave me some comments below, and if there's enough interest, I'll go ahead and make a video about how we set up, the lighting setups we use, and why, and things like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into the review of Miller's. Basically, I ended up going with Miller's because when I first was getting prepared for my first shoot, I needed to order some prepaid envelopes, and I didn't even know where to get those. And when I say prepaid envelopes, basically I mean, you know, the little packages that get sent home with the kids that have all of the different package information, and then the envelope that the kids fill out, and the parents put the money in the envelope and they give it back to the photographer. I've been through a couple of different designs because I'm still kind of learning how to do this high volume thing, and I'm trying to simplify the process, because for those of you who have done high volume photography, you know, when you get 400 kids and 400 sets of parents, you will get bombarded with questions about things. And so, like for example, on our latest design that we just tried, I went with a ridiculously simple order form. Half the form is actually kind of blank, because we wanted to include pictures of every specialty item that we offered, because people would constantly come to us and say, well, what is this item? What is that item? And even though we have pictures and we tell them, well, that's exactly what you're ordering, we still have people who just don't understand. But these envelopes, they come in very handy. It is a little frustrating because they're kind of expensive, and then in your smaller orders, I think they come out to be about 50 cents a piece. When you order them in bulk, the cost comes down. I think we paid about 30 cents per order form, which is kind of pricey, and it does get a little frustrating. For example, in our last shoot, you know, we provided the organization with 400 envelopes for the two different leagues that we were going to be shooting for the same organization, and we had over 100 people who showed up without envelopes. So it ended up costing me about an extra $30 in basically wasted envelopes, but it is a necessary evil. And so because I got these through Miller's, I just went ahead and stuck with them for the printing service, and overall I'm pretty happy with them. So whenever I talk about high volume photography, basically what I'm talking about, we go in, we do all of the portraits for each kid in the league and their team pictures. So this is basically the way that Miller's ships us the packets. They're packaged pretty well so they don't get damaged. I pay an extra 10% to Miller's so that they will individually sort them for me. And basically we get all the packages back, and it's got the kids' pictures already in the envelope with the kids' names and what they ordered. And so it makes my life easier because I don't have to sit there and sort through them. Miller's does charge an extra 10% to individually package them for you, but to me it's worth it because of the time savings. So not only do we get our prints through them, but we also get all of our specialty items, things like these cups, and we get things like keychains, magnets. They offer a bunch of different items. One of the things that we get a lot of requests for are plaques. This is the Memory Mate plaque. Our actual biggest selling item is the Memory Mate, which is this picture here that has the kids' picture and the team picture. Not in a plaque form, but that's our #1 selling item. Pretty much every kid that comes through orders that, and they're actually really easy to use through Miller's. Miller's has a lot of different templates that you can use. I think this is called their old school design, and then they also offer a lot of different sports options. So for example, this was a softball league, so they all say softball on there. They offer stuff that says baseball and football, basketball, wrestling, even a bunch of sports you kind of wouldn't expect them to offer, they do offer those templates. And then you have the ability to put whatever text you want in them and things like that. Overall, I'm really impressed with the quality of their prints. I think their prints are top notch. A lot of the items we get, like the keychains, the magnets, you know, the photo buttons, they're all of decent quality as well. Really the only items that I wish that they would kind of improve on, I kind of think that these cups and their coffee cups are kind of cheap, and also their flashlights I think are kind of cheap. I mean, in this day and age, anything but a LED flashlight I think is pretty much pointless, but they're still sticking with some old, really dull, kind of boring flashlights. But outside of that, it's pretty decent. One of the great things is their turnaround time. So typically I'll have my orders uploaded, let's say by Tuesday at noon. I'm not sure what their cutoff time is, but they're on the East Coast of the United States. I'm on the West Coast. Typically I'll have my orders in by Tuesday at noon, and by Thursday afternoon I've already got all of my stuff FedEx to me and in hand. And for me that's really big, because since we are a relatively new company at doing this in our area, it's kind of our big selling point to get people to leave the current photographers that they use. And that was kind of why we got involved in it, was because we had an organization that approached us that was very unhappy with the company they had been using, and their biggest complaint was that it was taking several weeks, sometimes even a few months, to get their orders back. They weren't happy with the print quality, the orders were messed up, and they wanted to go with somebody else. And I turned them down the first few times they asked me, and then I kind of realized how much money could be made in high volume photography, so we started doing it. And I'm glad that we started doing it, but our big push is that we tell people we'll have your prints delivered to you within 7 to 10 days after the shoot. Because ideally, if I do my job right and the other photographer does his job right, we nail the exposure. There's really no editing that goes into this. If there is any editing, it's typically going to be a global correction to the image, to all of the images, and we're done. So if we can get them uploaded within a day or two to Miller's will have them back to us 2 days later. So it's something that we really push hard whenever we go and we're meeting with new organizations to try to do their pictures. And some of the organizations we do, or some of the leagues we do, they have 400 or 500 kids, and Miller's is consistently able to deliver those prints to me within days, which is just absolutely awesome. The one complaint I do kind of have about Miller's, their pricing from what I've seen is pretty much comparable to everybody else. But the one complaint that I do have is I kind of felt when I first started using them that their software was not very self-explanatory. I ran into some problems the first few times I used it, and I don't think that the software is complicated anymore. I mean, I actually think it's quite easy to use, and it's really quick to sit there and get all of our orders inputted and submitted. But I just really feel like they have a lack of documentation and kind of instructions for new users. They've got multiple different applications that do different things, and trying to figure out which one does what as a new user is a pain. And they do have a lot of videos online, but trying to find the video that answers the question you're looking for without spending an hour going through them is a little bit frustrating. Their email support, I've used it I think once or twice, and I never got my question answered. I just basically got referred back to the same page that I didn't understand. So I always call them now if I have a problem, and their phone support's great. I've never had to wait on the phone. Pretty much as soon as I called, somebody picked it up, and they were very helpful, walked me through whatever question I had. And you know, now my questions are getting less and less as I get more familiar with their software and their ordering process. But like I said, other than the initial setup or the initial, getting used to their software, I think that it's a pretty decent company to work with. I don't have any complaints other than, like I said, a few of their items I think are a little bit on the cheap side. I'd like to see them improve the quality of a couple of things. But other than that, everything's been great. All of our orders have been correct. We've only had a couple of pictures that came in where the corners were dinged, because they do a really good job of packaging them, with the cellophane wrap and the cardboard. Everything's boxed up really good, and out of the literally couple thousand pictures and different items that we've ordered through them at this point, I've had maybe 10 prints come in with any kind of damage or anything, and it wasn't significant. The customer didn't even care. But I'm sure that Miller's would have fixed the problem had I even brought it to their attention. But if you guys have any questions about Miller's or anything else, leave me a comment below. Like I said, if you guys have an interest in high volume photography and kind of how I set things up when we do our shoots and the organization that goes into it and our lighting setups and stuff like that, let me know. I'll be more than happy to put together a video on it, because like I said, I struggled to find much information and I really had to learn by making mistakes. And when you're bringing in several hundred kids, it can be kind of a logistical nightmare. You've got a short amount of time to get a lot of pictures done. We're shooting anywhere from 70 to 90 kids an hour for their individual pictures. So it's really fast paced, and you've got to have things organized and set up right from the get-go, or else you're going to have all kinds of problems. So like I said, if you guys have any questions or comments, just leave me one below. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.